I want to share with you the exact corrective exercises that I utilize with my athletes to reduce injury and overall promote quality movement. Let's get into it. Yo, what's going on, guys? Chris Warner here from Overtime Athletes, and for today's video, I want to get a little bit more detailed on what corrective exercises and how I actually program them for my athletes. Now, if you're not familiar with corrective exercises, these are going to be exercises that we essentially identify with athletes to be able to restore balance, bring symmetry, reduce injury, and overall produce better quality movement so that their performance on the field or court is optimal. Now, when it comes to corrective exercises, it's important to understand that this is a very individualized process. So most of my athletes have some level of specific correctives that they're going to perform on themselves because everybody is different. However, when I'm programming for a group or a specific sport, we can see some commonalities or some generalities that we can perform for each of those athletes or those groups. Now let's get into how we fit these within the program. So what I do in my approach is after we mobilize and we perform our dynamic work, we then get into our strength work. When we get into our strength work, we usually kick off with a heavy compound movement, okay? And this compound movement usually consists of your primal patterns, your push, pull, your hinge, and your squat, and even potentially your lunge. Now that we've taken this multi-joint integrated exercise throughout the entire body, we then want to pair or couple that with more of a fine movement pattern that's basically working through the general or common joint that can be compromised within that athlete's sport. For instance, if I'm performing a deadlift, right, and it's a heavy lower body compound exercise, I typically work something through the knee joint, and there's a specific progression with that. If I'm performing a bench press, I'm typically trying to work the antagonist, which is the pull, the rear delts, right, the mid upper back, and also the external rotators in the actual arm. I might also work things such as the elbow, the wrist, things that are going to be a little bit more fine, single joint exercises that we can increase the tendon strength and overall structural integrity of that joint. If I'm performing a squat, to reduce compensation, I can reinforce it with things such as a hip circle squat where we can really force the athlete to get into the hips to then take that over to the actual squat pattern when they actually load the spine. Another example of that could be working through a heavy resisted unilateral lunge or reverse lunge or step up. And then we can pair that with something through the lower limb, such as a heel walk, which will essentially elevate the anterior tibialis. So as a broad overview, again, what we're trying to accomplish is as we attack that gross movement pattern, we can then pair that with a fine movement pattern, more single joint exercise that's typically compromised so that we can increase that structural integrity, reduce injury, and overall have that athlete perform a lot better with quality. Not only does that allow our athlete to basically get that work in between the sets, but it actually usually now balances out to act as their rest period in between that more intense load that they performed with the compound lift. So just wanted to kind of show you guys how I program, what I'm focused on the upper and lower halves to be able to, from a general perspective, give them a little bit more corrective exercises so that they can then perform with better quality for their sport. And then, as I said, you can go extremely deep with these where it's on an individual basis with each athlete. But from a common standpoint, when you're programming, try to plug those in and make sure that you're performing them with your actual strength lifts. I hope that helps, and I'll catch you guys next time.